Aloha and welcome to Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. I am your host, GeralynStJoseph, and I am a psychic intuitive as well as an empowerment coach. Today we're going to talk about choosing the right psychic for you. Psychic is a word that encapsulates so many different gifts and so many different things. And also people's expectations sometimes are not in the realm of reality, just saying. I've been a professional psychic since 1994. I have done readings for others since I was in grade school, probably was around 8 to 10 years old when I started. It comes very naturally for some people, and other people go through and are taught. I teach people how to tap into their intuition and how to trust their inner knowing, both for themselves, and those are like empowerment courses, and also to help others if they are looking to become either like a life coach or they want to become a professional practitioner like myself. So when you're choosing someone that you're going to go speak to, I would think the first thing that you want to consider is, what are you looking for? What is it that you need? Because each of us gives slightly different types of information, and everybody has their own style of delivering the information. I myself, when I do readings, I always start off with a general reading. I don't want to know anything. I don't want to question. I don't want to know anything. I just want to go into it and let you know what spirit wants to say to you. I know other practitioners who teach and also who practice who want a question to start off on so that they have something to target to go from. Usually I will use a tool to target with, a deck of cards, a pendulum, your handwriting, a gemstone, anything like that, just so that I can target and get into it quickly. Do you want to talk to a deceased loved one? You would be talking to a medium then. Mediums are people who speak to people who have crossed over or who have died. The reason why I make the distinction there is because not everyone who's died has crossed over. They've left the mortal coil, but sometimes their spirits get stuck here on this level of existence. They just don't have a physical body. They're all energy and consciousness. Those we call ghosts. Once you're crossed over, then you're a spirit. And as a spirit, you could do a lot more, you know a lot more. As a ghost, you need to be released from that so that you can join back with source or go to God, be in heaven, or however you want to term that. Then you have someone who is clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, all the clairs. And the clairs are a form of psychic ability. It's just, how does it come in? So if somebody's clairaudient, they hear it. If someone is clairvoyant, they see it. If you're clairsentient, you just kind of know it. There's also clairtangents, clairambience, I think. But all of your regular senses are extended out into psychic senses. The difference between a regular sense, like being able to see, and clairvoyance, being able to see, is you're seeing in a different way. Some people actually see outside themselves. Other people, you actually see it inside, like you get flashes or visions of things. But it's an extension of the eye, just like it's an extension of the ear, like you could hear more frequencies than most people can. Regardless of which one of the clairs you have, it is up to the practitioner how much information they can discern from this. Like, what can they interpret? What can they get in? It depends on how clear of a channel they are and how much the person that they're trying to read is open also, because you can totally block out any type of reading. There are ways to do that where you really stitch your energy tight and you don't let anything in. And when you do that, you make it very difficult for the practitioner to get into your energy and read what's there. There are different levels of practitioners. Just like if you go to a doctor, you're going to look for a doctor with a good reputation, a doctor that understands what it is that's happening with you. Maybe they're a heart doctor, maybe they're a foot doctor. You know, they're going to have whatever specialty you need. You may want to do something similar if you're going to go for a reading. People go for readings for different reasons, as I said before. You might want to talk to someone who's crossed over. Maybe you want to find out about your spirit guides. Maybe you want to look at your past lives. Or maybe you want an idea of what is going to happen in the next 6 months so that you can be prepared. Maybe you feel like you're sick, but you've gone to the doctors and they're not quite sure what's going on. Not that we're doctors, but sometimes we can pick up on things energetically that a doctor is not going to see because they're not looking for it, and can help guide you. Maybe you should ask your doctor this or that. You have certain practitioners who work best dealing with like relationships or romance. I would say be careful if you find people who seem like they're telling you this is the way it is. I have written down red flags to look for when you're looking for a practitioner. So we're going to go with the pros and the cons. So the red flags when you're talking to a practitioner, number one is they speak in absolutes. Anybody who says, I am 100% accurate, 100% guaranteed, anything like that, no, right off the bat, they're lying. Scientific experiments have discovered that people who are considered psychic or intuitive have a much higher rating or percentage of being right than the average person. So the average person is right, just guessing about things or people about 30% of the time. A really good psychic is correct 70 to 75% of the time. We do get some people who are as high as like 82%. And those are people like John Edwards and people of that stature who have been tested at a higher level than most. There's never been anyone who's 100%. One of the reasons for that is that our job is to show you the landscape. Your job is to figure out how you're going to cross it. I might give you some tips because I'm kind of like a scout. But if I'm telling you, you have to do this, that, and the other thing, or else, that's a red flag too. If someone is too determined to have control over you or tell you exactly what you need to do, that's not a good sign. That's very controlling. I've seen certain psychics who will try to weave themselves into your story or your success so that you take them along. If you don't do this with me or you don't give me credit for this, then it's going to fail. Those types of stories. Be very careful of that. A psychic should be like any other doctor. We need to be separate and objective. And even if we have skin in the game, we have to pull ourselves out of that and become more objective. Be aware that we all come to the table with our own baggage. We have our own filters that we're looking through, our own experiences. Some experiences may make us more aware of things, and other experiences may make us unaware of things. Story that I tell is that when I was pregnant with my child back in the day, it's been a little while, I was actively practicing and doing readings and stuff. And I was at this psychic fair and we had a lull. So I decided to go to different readers and just kind of see what they said about what was going on with me. I've been told by doctors, first off, I wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant. And then if I got pregnant, I would have to be on bed rest and yada, yada, yada. That didn't happen. So I kind of wanted to see where things were going. And I knew I had a very rocky relationship with my child's father. So as I went to different readers, one reader was very sincere and she was very concerned about me, but she could not fathom having and taking care of a child, raising a child on her own without assistance from the father, or without knowing that the father was going to be in her life. And she recommended that I get an abortion. bad advice for me. That is not something that I would ever do. And especially because of the fact that this was my one shot, and it was my one shot. This is my one child. I never did get pregnant again. I couldn't. And if I had done that, how devastating would that have been for me to do that and then discover that, you know, this is a one-time miracle. It's never going to happen again. Whereas I had other practitioners who I went to who were like, okay, don't see dad in the picture. How do you feel about that? Here's your choices. This is what I see happening here. This is where I see happening here. You should be given choices, or it's best if you're given choices. When I do readings, I try to follow the energy to see where it's going. This is what's going to happen if you continue on the course you're on right now. If you change your course, this is what can happen. Or if you do this, this is what can happen. You are in control of your own destiny. Fate will bring you to a place, and then you use your free will to decide which direction to take. That's the way it works, by my understanding. So anyone who uses absolutes, big red flag. Anybody who injects themselves into your reading, like you have to do this for me, otherwise this is not going to work for you, huge red flag. Anybody who upsells, especially who upsells hard, there's a difference between saying, oh, you're interested in learning more about your intuition. I have this class if you want to take it. Rather than somebody saying, oh, you need this. You have to do this. You have to buy this gold piece for $300 or whatever, you know, and they hard upsell you. And they tell you it's absolutely necessary that you have this, and you have to get it through them. They don't give you choices. Big red flag. Another big one. Anybody who throws around the word evil. It's evil. Somebody's put a curse on you. Those kind of things. Do curses exist? I believe they exist. They do. I've had to unravel a few. Are they common? No, not really. And is you giving somebody $10,000 or $20,000 going to help get that curse off you? No, no. The way curses work for the most part is they are most powerful if you don't recognize it, if you don't know about it. We could do something on that at some other time, but for the most part, if someone is seeing evil around you and somebody cursed you and now you got to pay them X amount of dollars more to unravel this or to do this or that for you, and it's high pressure, run away. Just run away from that person, because they're not going to put anything good in your head. So we have no absolutes, major upselling, hard sells. We have making yourself part of the reading, so that's all ego stuff. And we also have evil. The other thing is, how do you feel after you're done your reading? Do you walk away from the person with like, oh, that was interesting? Or, wow, I feel like I can do this. I have direction. Or do you feel like, oh my God, my life is over, I'm cursed, or, you know, these different things. You need to be careful. Part of that is on you and part of that is on the practitioner. The part of that that's on you is how much you grab onto and whether you flip things to the negative, even when they're not meant to be negative. You should become aware of that. What's on them is when they're only giving you one side of the information. Part of that is to get you more emotionally invested. Oftentimes also that's used to upsell. There are times when you're going to go to a practitioner and you can tell when you're talking to somebody, are they constantly looking at the clock? And as soon as that clock goes off, you are out the door, even if you're hysterical and a mess and you just are having difficulty getting through this. I know practitioners who are very busy and they have to end on that time, but they'll time things so that they allow themselves some time at the end to bring you down from whatever it is that you just discovered. If not, they should have someone who is assisting them who is able and qualified to talk things through with you, that they can hand you over and then you can have another 15 minutes or whatever, and then you can go. If it's all about the money and all about the time only, there's a problem, because the way I look at it is what we do is, it can be very important. Some people look at it as entertainment. We're supposed to say it's entertainment, but the truth of the matter is we can change lives. President Lincoln decided to run for president because a psychic told him that he would be president someday, and she was correct. But if he didn't have the impetus to do that and wasn't so certain of himself, he wouldn't have worked so hard to do it. He might have just taken the easier path. So we can change your life, and hopefully that's in a better way. Hopefully we're helping you to discern things that you can't always see and figure things out. Hopefully we're giving you some kind of insight that you can use. The way I describe my readings is that people generally will walk away with an actionable result. So I try to help people really work through things and have things that they can do or choices they need to make that they know they're clear on that. That's what they need to do in order to get the result that they want or come close to it, or at least have the least painful result. Let's face it, sometimes things just happen and there's not a lot that we can do about it. Not every reading is going to be a feel-good reading where you're going to feel great afterwards, but you shouldn't feel horrible. Crying sometimes is very cleansing, and that's okay, as long as they're not leaving you in a state that you're not going to be able to get yourself out of, and the whole reading is not that. So practitioners like myself and the people that I train, what I like to tell them is, if you're getting a 15-minute reading, I leave 2.5 minutes at the end. I have my buzzer go off, and then I still have 2.5 minutes that I can give you to walk you back or to summarize everything. And that should be helpful to you. So the key takeaways here are that psychics are people too. We have our own motivations, we have our own histories, and we have our own methodologies. And if you talk about ways to do readings or modalities, there's so many, I need to write a book. Everybody figures out what they're comfortable with, and that's what they use. Some people use a plethora of different things. You need to figure out whether you are comfortable with the person, whether the person is sincere and you feel like you can trust them, and look to see your own motivations. Getting referrals is excellent. But remember, not everybody likes the same kind of person. I'm pretty direct. Not everybody is. Not everybody likes direct. Some people like, you go around the corner a little bit before you get to the point. You also want to look for somebody who's a little more professional. Somebody who is not taking your story and running with it, like talking out of school, so to speak. Somebody that you can trust with your story, knowing that it's your story and that they're not going to run off and tell everybody your name, your address, exactly what you're going through, so that you can be preyed upon. Psychics are human. And like all humans, we have failings. We don't always have good days. So if you're looking at somebody's referrals or recommendations, and you're looking online and somebody's got 1 or 2 things up, that seems pretty bad. If the rest of it is positive and you feel okay with the person, you could probably overlook those bad ratings, because 2 things will happen. One is everybody has bad days. Maybe they were having a bad day. And 2, there are people who go to readers because they just want you to parrot back what it is they want to hear. That is not something I will ever promise someone. I am not going to tell you what you want to hear. I will tell you what you need to hear, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you want to hear and act like that's coming from source or your spirit guides or anything else. That's not fair to you. It's also not fair to me because it's faking. We don't want that. So when you're looking for somebody referrals help, make sure you're comfortable with them. You should be able to talk to them a little bit, or at least see online what kind of a personality they have. A lot of us are on social media now, especially YouTube. If you want to look for us and see how we speak and see if you feel comfortable with what we're saying and what we're teaching, that's a good way to go. The things that you really need from a practitioner is you want them to listen. You want them to be able to listen to you and what you need. Does that mean that you start off just spouting everything? No. Like I said, when I take people, I tell them from the beginning, I don't want to know anything. I don't want to hear anything. We'll start the reading and then I'll tell you when to ask me specific questions and when to give me feedback, but it's not right at the beginning. Other people, they want that question, but they just want the question. They don't want too much around it because then that can throw you off your mark so far as like actually using your intuition and your integrity. You want somebody who's sincere. You want somebody whose priority is you, that when you're in front of them, you are their priority. When you're in front of them, you're the person that they're trying to help, and that their reason for doing this is because they can't not do it. So a lot of us who are in this, practicing this, not an easy thing to do, not an easy job, not easy to see inside people's souls and see how people are suffering sometimes and having to deal with that all the time. It's not an easy job. So when you get into it, just like being a doctor or a therapist or anything like that, you want somebody who's doing it for the right reasons, who's doing it because they are called to do it, because they have something to offer, because they're trying to be supportive and helpful to you and to people in general, to help people. Make sure they are more comforting than upsetting. Does that mean telling you everything you want to hear? No. But if I tell you something that you don't want to hear, then I should be able to balance that out and be able to explain things to you. Still might not be something that you want to hear, but as I explain things and show you what your situation is, and maybe I look past the situation and say, well, okay, this really sucks right now, but if you get through this, here's what's on the other side. Here's a story. When I was much younger, I was doing a reading for this woman. She was a very, very successful corporate person. And what I saw as I'm reading her, she's asking me about, she wants to know about her career. And I'm like, I'm not getting a lot about career. I'm getting all this other stuff. So I'm telling her all this other stuff. Sometimes what you think is important and what spirit thinks is important are two totally different things. I always go with what spirit is wanting to say. So I'm telling her this and I'm like, something is going to happen in the next 6 weeks that is going to be really, really life altering for you. And I could see what it was, but I was told not to give her too much detail. So basically what I saw was that she was going to have this really bad accident. There was no way for her at this point to avoid that accident. So it didn't make sense to tell her that that's what it was going to be, because then she'd be scared and it might shift things. Not that she wouldn't get in it, but it could be worse or it could be too soon, like that kind of thing. So I'm like, you're going to have, and you're going to be hurt and you're going to need to heal, and it's going to be major and life-changing. And when it first happens, you're not going to want to be here anymore. You're going to be so upset with how you see your life changing that you're not going to want to be here anymore. But I am here to tell you that when you get through this, at the other end, you are happier than you ever thought you could be, and that your life changes dramatically. But at the end of it, you have the life that you were meant to live, and that things are so much better and so much brighter. But you have to get through this part. there's no way to avoid this right now because spirit keeps trying to tell you you needed to shift gears and you wouldn't do it. So now it's a 2x4 to the head. She came to me 2 years later and was like, yeah, about 5 weeks after the reading, she was in this horrific car accident. She was taken to the hospital. They said her recovery did not look good, that she would probably be in a wheelchair and all this other stuff. And she said she did try to not be here anymore, that she just felt so lost. And she said all she kept hearing was my voice telling her, when you get to the other side, you're going to be happier than you ever thought was possible. When you get to the other side, that's when you're going to really start to live. You haven't lived up until now. That's when you really start to live. And she started just hearing that like a mantra in her head. And she started really focusing on coming out the other side. By the time she came out the other side, and it took more than a year, she had learned to walk. She had healed far more than the doctors ever thought she could. And she started doing art. It was part of her therapy so that she could, like, what's it called, when you handle small things, her motor skills, her fine motor skills. To bring her fine motor skills back, she would sketch and she started to paint, and she figured out, she's like, I forgot I loved art so much. And I used to do this as a kid. And I always used to say I was going to be an artist. And then I went to college, forgot about it because you can't make money doing that. When she came back to me, she was making money doing that. She was happier than she'd ever been. She found a relationship that was very supportive of her, and she was doing her art as a business and doing what she loves and making money out of it. She had a couple of scars from that accident, but she was so grateful for that accident at that point. That's what I mean by you're not always going to hear what you want to hear, but you're going to hear what you need to hear. And that even though that was a horrific thing that might have left her worried, I kept giving her the rest of it. You got to give the whole story. So it wasn't about, oh, you're going to be in this horrible accident. It was about, you're going to have this horrible thing happen. You're going to think it's really terrible. But when you get out the other side, you're going to see that that's the day that changed your whole life in a really good way. Difficult to get through, but it was for your benefit. Things like that are what makes a reader more valuable, or very valuable, because her getting better could have taken years, could have taken a decade, because she needed that will to survive and to heal and to go on, because our energetic is what creates our physical. I have a lot of physical issues. I was in a major accident when I was only 19. But I also am at a place where doctors never thought I could be. I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. But I've overcome all these different things. And it was by sheer force of will and by spirit lifting me up and allowing me to do it. So when you have your eye on the prize and you're allowing the universe to support you, life is easier. It's not easier in that, well, everything just kind of comes and you don't have to do any work. You still have to do the work, but the work feels worth it. It's not drudgery. You're doing it for a purpose. I got off on a tangent. So your red flags that you want to look for is their priority. Are you their priority, or are they just looking for the money and the time? And as soon as the time is up, even if you're in a bad state, they're going to let you go. Do they leave you upset? Are they comforting or upsetting? Do they speak in absolutes? I'm 100% correct. Do they tell you what you need to do? You have to do this, as opposed to giving you choices. Say, well, this can happen or this can happen. These are your choices. This is what, and they show you the road. Do they show you the landscape, or do they lead you down a road and say, this is the only road that you could go to? Do they keep upselling and in a hard upsell, like you have to do these things? Do they talk about evil a lot and curses and, oh, you have to do all this other stuff? If they keep asking for money and more money and more money and more money, and I got to buy this candle and it's got gold in it, it's $3,000. No. Run away, run away. Those are not good people. And the last two are, do they make themselves a part of your reading? Are they real ego-based where they feel like you need to praise them or you need to include them in your success? And is their reading fear-based? Is it empowering or is it disempowering? Which all this weaves in together, even though I'm saying it as separate things. Are they empowering you to something better and greater? Or are they disempowering you and telling you you have no choice? This is the way things are going to be. You're going to meet a tall, dark man and all that kind of stuff. So that is how you choose the right psychic for you. Knowing what you need, watching out for those red flags, and being open to the process. Follow your instincts. Oh, one other caveat, and I tell my clients this all the time. If you're getting a reading from someone and it feels like, oh, that feels right, feels right, feels right, then all of a sudden you get a hit in your solar plexus, like your solar plexus get pulled back, you're like, that does not feel right. You don't have to take the whole reading. It could be that they are correct, they're correct, they're correct. Maybe this is something that's coming through their filters. Or maybe this is something that you don't have to recognize or you don't have to go through. So when you feel like something just is off or isn't right, that's okay to set that aside and not own that or take that in. And as you question, they should be open to being questioned. Sometimes we don't know where it's coming from, to be totally honest. Sometimes we don't know why something is happening. We just know that it will. Or we don't see the whole lead up to something. We just see the event. That happens. But if you have a question, they should be willing to answer, even if the answer is, I don't know, or I'm not sure, anything like that. Okay? So next time you need a reading, remember these things. And now we're on to the second part where we're going to be doing readings privately. If you were part of the Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics meetup group, you would be able to join us. We're on meetup.com and you'll see the link below. Thank you so much for listening. Blessings. Have a good day. Mahalo.